All right. It is 7 o'clock and I would like to call the Kimberley Regular City Council meeting for Monday, January the 26th to order, held here on the Ktunaxa Homelands. Do we have any late items, Maurice?
There's no late item, Mr. Mayor.
All right, hearing none, could I have a mover to adopt the agenda? Councillor Cairns, thank you. And Councillor McGuire seconds. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Next up, we have the adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting of City Council for January the 12th. Mover, please. Councillor McBain, thank you. Councillor Fox seconds. All those in favor? Motion is carried. All right, quick order of the statutories tonight. Next up, we have a delegation. Welcome, guys. We have both a presentation and a budget presentation from the library board. So Dan or Carmen, which of you are going to take the podium? Please. Yeah. Take it away.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mayor McCormick and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Carmen Lazenby and I'm the director at the library. I'm delighted to be here representing the library and the dedicated staff who bring such passion and care to their work every day in service of our community. I'd like to take a moment to share some of the successes the library has seen over the past year. Rather than listing statistics, I thought we'd make this a little more interactive with some trivia. Don't worry, it'll be quick. Perfect, thank you. Okay, so you can put your hand up, call it out, or just play along in your head. Question 1. How many active library card holders did we have in 2025? 10,158, 5,450, or 8,645? We'll give you a hint, it's always the highest number. It's 10,158. On average, how many in-person visits does the library see each week? 300, 638, or 240?
638.
Correct. That's more than 100 people walking through the doors every single day. True or false? The library offered programs that created meaningful, multi-generational connections in our community. It's true. Our Dungeons and Dragons program has brought together teens, adults, and seniors, and those connections have continued outside the library walls. And last question. How many bear spray incidents happened at the library in 2025? 2, 1, or 0? It's actually 0. It's a trick question. Bear spray happened at the end of 2024.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're very happy we didn't see a repeat of that in 2025. These answers tell an important story. They show that the Kimberley Public Library is not just being used, it's being relied on. High engagement, strong attendance, and programs that connect people across generations all point to a library that is deeply embedded in the daily life of our community. At the same time, this level of use brings real challenges. Limited physical space continues to restrict our programming capacity, limiting the number of people who can participate in popular and valuable programs. This pressure on space is also felt daily after school, when demand from youth is especially high. During these hours, public computers and shared areas are frequently fully occupied, often with 30 to 40 youth in the library at one time, while just 2 staff members manage both regular library operations and the needs of these young patrons. As the cost of living continues to rise, more families are relying on and actively seeking free, accessible programming through the library. We are committed to overcoming these challenges, and your ongoing financial support plays a critical role in allowing us to do so. We are strengthening partnerships with other community organizations to help address space limitations for programs and events, And we are enhancing our policies to better support staff as they respond to the increased presence and needs of youth after school. Looking ahead, 2026 brings exciting opportunities for the library. We've been approved to receive $97,700 in funding through the CBT Reads grant. This funding will support several significant upgrades aimed at improving accessibility throughout the library. As we make these important improvements, we are reminded that the library is more than just a building. It is a cornerstone of Kimberley's shared life. In June 2027, we will commemorate an incredible milestone, the centennial of our public library. As we prepare for this historic achievement, we're asking for the city's support in a few targeted aesthetic improvements to the library building. Specifically, we are requesting assistance with a fresh coat of paint to the exterior of the building, sanding and coating the exterior beams and trim, installing an exterior garbage recycling ashtray unit, and enhancing the greenery in front of and alongside the building. These updates will help us celebrate our 100th year while continuing to benefit the community for decades to come. We appreciate your time, your consideration, and your continued support of the Kimberley Public Library. And I'll pass it off to Dan to present our budget.
Thank you, Carmen.
Thanks.
Very nicely said.
Good evening, council and staff and the mayor, those in attendance and those tuning in virtually. My name is Dan Moe. I'm the chair of the board of directors for the Kimberley Public Library. And I present to you this evening our budget for 2026. Is it possible can come up on screen? Thank you to Carmen for giving us a little more color and flavor to this evening. My side of things is fairly more procedural. Effectively, starting at the top, and our main ask is the city continues to fund the library with an increase of 5%, which translates to approximately $10,000 on a $200,000 annual grant. Maintaining a look at the revenue side of things. We were fortunate not to have a bear spray incident this year. Though what that demonstrated to us, that event, the silver lining of it, was that there is an appetite in town to fund the library from the public, to support the library within donations. And so despite the event happening in late 2024, the most of the donations were captured in the 2025 actuals, which you'll see there in the center column under donations. The board recognizes that interest from the community at large to support the library, and are looking to try and follow through and increase our kind of donation stream of revenue through campaigning to the community. I'd like to acknowledge there the Friends of the Kimberley Public Library with their very generous donation of $20,000. Once again, yeah, very successful enterprise, the bookstore there. Effectively, to unfortunately repeat myself from last year, the provincial government has not increased funding to municipal libraries or libraries in general. For now, we are in the 17th year. And so despite that lack of increase of funding, as you've heard and as you know, the library is still very successful, and we look forward to continuing that success and continuing offering the great programs and services that are found there. Though this comes at a cost. And so I think we can kind of look down on the expenditure side of things. And this year, we've identified a number of areas that we can make cuts, unfortunately. But it's ways in which we can manage what ultimately becomes our operating deficit in ways that don't impact the core services that the library provides. Carmen, previously to being the director, was the cataloger and collection specialist, and feels confident that she can manage a $10,000 cut to our book line. Potentially thought of as like the core mandate of the library. We are doing much more in services and programming, and we will look to manage our deficit through, unfortunately, like lessening the amount of printed material that's coming in for this year. Yeah, we're looking at creative partnerships in the community to help continue the programming and services while making connections in the community and kind of bridging some gaps in that sense, and finding reciprocal relationships with other community groups. And as you heard, there is the CBT Reads grant, which is a significant figure and will sort of balance out. You'll see the like the equipment, shelving, furniture, for instance, we significantly cut that line item, 6120, with a number of upgrades that Tegan previously was able to implement. The Reads grant will also look to kind of bring in some benefit to the library significantly, and we didn't capture that grant in the budget, considering that effectively it is both revenue and expenditure unto itself, without much impact in our operational expenses. But it might have kind of net positive impacts that impact this budget accordingly. So yes, ultimately, we are asking for a 5% increase to our grant from the city, translating to $10,000 approximately, and we are forecasting a 36,000 and change deficit for this year, which we are comfortable to carry for another year of operating. I was here last year, when we were forecasting even worse, and we made it through, better than forecasted, and we feel we can do that once again for this year, with ongoing background work, lobbying the province at every angle, and and looking at other ways that the library board can support the library in fundraising and donations. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much, Dan. So on that deficit, so do you have reserves?
Yes.
We don't have the balance sheet here, but do you have reserves that are sufficient enough to cover that?
Sufficient enough, yeah, for this year.
Okay.
And that kind of comes around as a result of a significant grant from the province a few years ago, kind of through the pandemic times, of $100,000 that we put into a term deposit that sat there until it became available without penalty this year, which we've since taken into our bank account. And we do have reserves that can float us through this year.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Council. Council McBain, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just note the one thing that Dan touched on, and yeah, to echo your sentiments, Don. Great presentation, Carmen. Yeah, I think the one positive thing that I heard out of UBCM this year, and obviously it hasn't turned into action yet, but the interest at the municipal level in at least trying to push the provincial government into increasing funding for libraries. There was several of us there at those library presentations, and the refrain was pretty consistent throughout the municipal government representation there. So I'm hopeful that will translate into action. But yeah, I think it's, just to kind of echo some of the things that have been said. The one thing that we all took away from that is, it really punctuated the needs or the services that libraries provide, like you said, Dan, outside of just providing books for people. There's just so many other services that the library provides with respect to warming centers in the wintertime, cooling centers in the summer, and so on, and just a safe space for people to go and look for a job, things like that. So yeah, I'm always been proud to support the libraries and recognize what they do, and I hope we can continue to push the province to increase the funding for libraries, because they are so important to our community. So
Further, Councillor Roberts, go ahead.
Thank you. Gosh, I've been going to Kimberley Library since I was a child, walking past the old library, coming from McKim up the tracks to the library every day. Have my light on at night when my mom thought I was sleeping and just reading and reading. I have maybe it's one of those sacrilegious questions for a book place, but do you do any audio books? Do you have an opportunity to lend out any audio books? You do.
Yes, there are. Yeah, there is a more modest collection of audiobooks.
Physical CD one audiobooks. We do have a small collection.
Mhm.
It seems to be growing in the electronic way.
That's interesting. I haven't been doing it as much lately, but when I traveled, I always had audiobooks and I really appreciated them at the time. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is kind of more appropriate in the 21st century for many people. And there is, as Carmen said, like physical CDs of audiobooks, as well as digital subscription services that can be accessed from abroad.
thank you.
So Dan, the RDEK grant was proposed at 51, but is estimated to come in at 48, a lower number. What's the reason for that?
Yeah. So the estimated column
Yeah.
is also the actuals. It's just that
Right.
still kind of fresh into the new year. We're
Okay.
just ironing out the last details of our 2025 actuals. Nonetheless, yes, the RDEK grant came in lower, and I would off the top of my head, the 2025 budget, estimating a 51 plus grant would have been a marginal increase on the 2024 figure that the RDK provided.
Right.
I believe there was no increase from 2024 to 2025. We're holding the approximately $3,000 addition on the RDK line in hopes that they will follow through on this year.
So can I suggest that you make a formal application for more?
Yes, to the RDK.
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
not just to the 51,450, but at least a 10% or whatever you can rationalize, given you've got a $36,000
Yes,
deficit
absolutely.
yeah, I'd put a formal request into that. And now is a really good time because the budgets are under consideration here within the next short while.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for the reminder and the encouragement
Yeah.
on that. I had been in touch with the RDK previously, and my work with the Kootenay Library Federation has a bit of a project to kind of unite the East Kootenay libraries together to have a unified voice to approach the RDK accordingly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I will follow through on
Okay,
that.
cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll do a little bit of advance scouting for you there at the next board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with respect to the exterior updates, as with a lot of the facilities right now, they're under a consultant's evaluation on facilities. And I'm just wondering kind of what we might be able to do relative to, speeding that up a little bit, if it's possible, or is it tied up with that, or kind of what's the direction you recommend on that, Jim?
Yeah, I can jump in here, Mr. Mayor. So that there's actually the capital non-capital budget the council approved back in December includes a $26,000 allocation in 2026 for exterior painting of the library. I'm not sure if the staining of the beams is included in that. That's something we can circle back on. The other asks that you had in there, the garbage cigarette receptacles out front, that's something I think we'd have to refer to our operations department to make a determination, first of all, whether we've got the budget for it, and I guess secondly, whether it makes sense from the city's perspective to have additional receptacles there, or whether there's better place elsewhere. So I don't think that's something that council can commit to tonight. The landscaping as well, that's something I think we'll have to refer to the operations department as well, but really appreciate the advance notice. You're looking to 2027 here, so we do have some time to put some thought into this and some effort. Just for councils, as a bit of a reminder, because the library is a municipal library, they're governed by the Libraries Act. And one of the requirements is that the board present by March 1st, the budget, and council is obligated to approve as presented or amended the budget. So that's something that we'll be looking for council today. Krista's in the gallery here. Krista, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know what the budget is for the standing grant for 2026?
Yes, the 5-year financial plan includes an allocation for 2026 of $204,837. So that's a 1.5% increase over the allocation from 2025.
Yeah, so if council wants to approve the budget as presented with that $10,000 increase, that would be direction. If council were to make that motion, that would be direction to Krista at the next budget presentation to include that increase because we haven't considered that yet.
Yeah, chances are there'll be a couple of other items coming forward similarly. So, Councillor Fox, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, because correct me if I'm wrong, is there not an RMI project that's happening in front of the library? Am I wrong? Am I dreaming that? Like a shade sale that's not frying the sun thing?
Yeah,
That's not the right way of saying that, but right? Like,
Right.
Yeah, the final locations haven't been determined yet, but that's one of the preliminary locations for the outside seating and shade, some kind of a shade structure, shade sale.
So just out of curiosity, if we're doing something right there, can we just like budget a little bit for like flowers? Just to pretty it up? Just saying, is that an opportunity to?
The province isn't watching right now because the RMI funding is fairly specific. I think you're talking about landscaping along the side of the building, and but I think that might be a bit of a stretch.
Okay.
That's not to say that operations can't work it into the schedule, but we just need to talk to them and see what they've got going on.
Okay, fair enough.
Go ahead, Councillor Cairns.
Thanks for the great work and for the presentation tonight, and really appreciate all you do with Kimberley Library. And I just wondered if offhand, you know how much the use numbers have increased over, say, the past four years or so, roughly?
I don't have those statistics with me. Definitely get them to you.
Okay, and just wondering, could you say again the number of library card holders? Even though we were asked, I've forgotten.
10,000.
10,000? Oh,
10,158. And the I do remember, and I can follow up, or that the previous director Teagan had put together some statistics only for the last couple of years. I'm not sure if those are accessible on our website, but I can remember to follow up with those as well. And the marker of a 4-year is a little bit iffy with, some of the proceedings over the last few years.
You bet.
But there has been an increase in attendance to the library and in use of the services.
Thanks. Thanks, Dan.
Councillor Dunneback? And then
Something,
Councillor McLean.
something real quick, sort of an idea that popped to my mind with the landscaping and the beautification and plants and stuff like that. I love the idea, Councillor Fox is there sort of trying to amalgamate that area of the Platzel, because it's always sort of been the stepchild entrance. I'm sorry. But it is a very beautiful location with, and very accessible. And I just wonder about maybe reaching out for sponsorships from maybe local businesses to say, hey, will you sponsor a flower pot and we'll put your name on it and this is your pot and it can sit there for at least the anniversary, and essentially have the opportunity to solicit every year to keep the plants fresh and looking nice and possibly generate more revenue for you. Just entrepreneur in me.
Thanks for that, Councillor
Thank you.
Dunneback. Councillor McBain, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we implement the proposed amount of 211,901 presented by the library board. Basically, or from the original budget that we had.
If
Can I make
could-
that motion?
Yeah, I think,
Or should I?
I think just approve the 2026 library budget as
okay.
presented, and that'll be captured within that.
Thank you for that wording, Jim. We'll use that wording.
So moved by Councillor McBain.
A second.
Councillor McGuire seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Mayor, just so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle, perhaps a second resolution to refer the requests for the 2027 library centennial to the operations department for consideration of inclusion in the 2027 budget. Probably the painting is in 2026, like I say, but I think the 2027 waste receptacles, things like that will require a little bit of investigation. So we've got time for 2027.
All right, mover.
Also move.
Councillor McGuire moves. Councillor Karen seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Awesome. Good job, guys.
Yeah, thank
for
you
being
very
here
much for your
tonight,
time.
and keep up the great work.
Will do. Appreciate
Right.
it.
Okay, next up, pardon me, we have a bylaw for adoption, and that is the 2025-2029 5-year financial plan bylaw amendment for consideration and adoption. Could I have a mover, please? Motion on the floor is adoption. Councillor McBain, thank you. Councillor Roberts seconds. Krista, anything to add before we vote?
No, nothing further. This bylaw amendment was brought forward to council at the last regular meeting for first 3 readings. It incorporates the changes to the 2026 capital projects that were approved at the December 1st special budget meeting under the capital non-capital plan. And this will allow staff to go out and issue tenders and award tenders for those larger projects that are to occur in 2026, where earlier rather than waiting until May for the 2026 to 2030 financial plan to be adopted.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Krista. It wasn't that long ago that we were waiting until May, and by the time we got the RFPs and the requests in the queue, everybody was busy for the summer, and we were having trouble lining up people to get the work done. So getting these out now is critically important to getting the best pricing and the work done over the course of the season. So thank you very much for that. Council, any questions or comments? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you, Krista. Okay, next up, under permits, we have a development permit application for a multi-unit mixed-use building at 120 Howard Street. That's the empty lot currently between Burley Skate and the Health Auxiliary. It's been empty forever, and it looks like a pretty exciting project coming forward. The motion on the floor is that council approve the development permit to allow development of a multi-unit mixed commercial residential development at 120 Howard, subject to the conditions as identified in the staff report. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor McGuire moves, Councillor McBain seconds. Discussion. Which one of you guys is going to take this? Troy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor McCormick. Yeah, as you point out, this proposed location is the presently vacant lot on Howard Street between the thrift shop and Burley Skate. Has been vacant and underutilized for some time, so it'll be great to see if this moves forward and proceeds to construction. Multi-story, multi-unit mixed commercial residential is proposed here. 6 leasable commercial units on the first 2 levels, and then above that on 3 levels, 9 residential units, including kind of the penthouse unit on the top, with a parkade below as well that has vehicle and bicycle parking and storage and mechanical space, that kind of stuff as well. The commercial units range in size from 54 square meters to 300 square meters. And there's a mix of the residential units are mixed size, 2 1-bedroom units, 2 2-bedroom units, and 5 3-bedroom units. The project aligns quite well overall with a number of the development policies and objectives set out in the official community plan. It also aligns with the C1 commercial zoning regulations. I'll point out that this application has been under review for just over a year now, I guess. Came in late December 2024, and we've gone through a couple plan revisions to get this to comply with the size restrictions here in the commercial zone. So the design here maximizes and fully utilizes the maximum allowable gross floor area, meaning the total floor space on each floor combined relative to the site. They're coming in at just under the maximum there, as well as the height. They're maximizing the potential height for this building, both in the C1 general height restriction, but then with the kind of bonus height that's allowed under in the general regulations under section 410, and that's because of the difference in grade between the front of the site and the rear of the site at the lane. So overall, very well designed to meet our design guidelines and development regulations, and commend the applicants for working with us to get there. Site servicing capacity analysis was submitted and reviewed by staff, and staff are satisfied with the findings of that. We do note that there will be some upsized service connections required, and those will be implemented through the building permit process there at the applicant's expense. As motion there, we're recommending approval there with the identified recommended conditions of approval.
Awesome. Thanks, Troy. Councillor McBain.
Pretty awesome. I think I've been looking at that space vacant since I was a kid. So to me, I think this hits the marks of what we're looking for in town. Councillor McGuire talked, about infill densification, that type of thing. This meets the mark, and for me. And what I like about this is just reading the document provided. You could tell there's been back and forth between planning and the applicants here, and just I really appreciate the work that went into it from both sides, and clearly trying to get to a development permit that could get in front of us and that we could I think quite easily support. So kudos to the planning staff. I know these ones are a bit of work, but this is to me, this is a pretty awesome, exciting development for our town.
Thank you, Councillor McBain. Further? Go ahead, Councillor Fox.
I just have one, this might be kind of a dumb question. Under response options for number 2, it says there's an option to refuse citing specific OCP guidelines or zoning. Are there anything specific, or is that just?
Yeah, well, no, if there were, as council may recall, in some past reports to council on some development permits, we've pointed out where there's alignment with guidelines and regulations, and sometimes we point out, exceptions or aspects that might be viewed as being, not well aligned, or in fact, in the past, we've recommended against sometimes for not being perfectly aligned. But in this case, as we pointed out, we've been working with them, and they've revised their plans to respond to our concerns and the concerns that were raised by staff in our review with other departments. So if there was some specific potential concerns that we've felt were warranted in presenting to council, we would have pointed those out in the report. So
Okay.
in short, no, in our
Okay,
view, there's.
it just, because I read it all, and then I was like, oh, this sounds like it's just like meets all the stuff, and then that was in there, and then I was like, well, now I'm confused, does it or doesn't it, right? So
Yeah.
then I was trying to find the thing,
And,
so.
and if I may, just to further really run away with that one. Part of why we're pointing it out that way is just, a big part of what we try to do all the time is make sure that we're bringing projects forward to you that we are feel comply and are ready to be recommended and ready to be approved. Sometimes there is some comments or concerns that we need to bring to your attention. But in fact, the only way to refuse the development permit is by identifying clearly which specific rules, OCP development permit guidelines or zoning regulations that are not compliant. So yeah, if they're complying with those rules that are sort of preset by council, current or previous, then we're there's very little we can do to not approve it. Of course, they still go through building permit process, and sometimes there's some design tweaks or whatever else to meet with building code requirements, all that stuff. But and there will be this way, but and we monitor that moving forward to make sure they maintain compliance with all these requirements. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Makes sense. It just.
Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor McGain thought he'd been there since that space had been there since he was a child. That space has been there since I was a child. That's a while back. It was actually a Globe Hotel that burned down in the 50s, and it has been vacant ever since. So I'm really tickled that this is going to be built up.
Awesome. Councillor Dunback, go ahead.
Excuse me. Yeah, I concur with everybody here. I love to see the fact that we're looking at infilling and that there's some interest in that. There's a nice mix of everything. I just wonder if we're going to take into thought that that's a super narrow alleyway there with a pretty big restriction at the Platzel entrance. Will this building be right on the line, or will there be a setback allowing for turning radius and stuff like that, just for fluidity of travel? Because it's going to end up being quite a busy place, and just curious.
Go ahead, Roy.
Or if it will be to the line.
That's an excellent question. Thank you, Councillor Dunback. The parkade will be, so if you're at Howard Street at the front of the site, the front of the parkade will be right to the front parcel line, but the bulk of the building, or the wall of the building above that, will actually be inset from that parcel line a little bit, so it's offset from the street. Similarly to the lane side, the wall, at that case, the part of the parkade will be visible at above grade at the lane, and the wall above that, those will be offset from the rear property line at the lane. So that will in part allow for some turning radius into the parkade at the back off the lane, but also kind of to pull that the bulk massing of the building away from the front street and the rear lane there. And I didn't point that out in the height comments earlier, but also are following the compliance with the kind of the step back height of the taller parts of the building there. So that will help to still allow light and all that stuff to the front street and yeah. You bet.
Okay, last comment, go ahead.
Question, as we talk about parkade, are we talking about parkade for the occupants or a public parkade?
Well, most likely only for occupants of the building. It's up to the owners there if they wish to allow others to utilize it, but I think that'd be unlikely in my view.
Thank you. So it's not a fundraising parkade, in other words.
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 10 spots. So 8 spots, yeah. Okay, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. The next development variance permit is for 771 304th Street, which is where the Mike's Car Wash is located. And the motion on the floor is the council approved development permit to allow for a car wash expansion on the lands located at 771 304th Street and civilly known as that and subject to the conditions as outlined in the staff report. Councillor Cairns, are you moving? Thank you. Councillor McBain seconds. Go ahead, Troy.
Thank you again, Mayor McCormick. I'm going to hand this over to Max Garvey here in just a second, but just before I do, I believe many of you have not had a chance to meet Max, who's our still new planning technician. Arrived last year, started in March, I think it was. Yep. Yeah, graduate of University of British Columbia, hails from Edmonton, but been a great addition to the team and has been doing some really great work on a lot of different files and really helping us get caught up and keep caught up on a number of things. So I'll hand, so this is his first time presenting to council and first take it easy with your questions, please.
Over to you, Max.
Thank you, Troy, for the
Take it away.
introduction. All right. So council may recall the previous rezoning discussions surrounding this car wash use. And with the approved zoning amendment, we're now at a stage where we can bring forward this development permit to council. So the applicants, Mike's Car Wash in Marysville, are proposing an expansion to their existing car wash facilities, including two new exterior wash bays and the corresponding underground infrastructure. Tanks and a filtration system will be installed below ground and the site will be paved. No new structures are proposed at this time. The applicants have obtained an access to controlled access highway permit from the Ministry of Transportation and Transit, and the terms of that permit have been included in the conditions that are being proposed tonight. Conditions surrounding snow storage, lighting, and screening of the wash area have also been recommended. Staff have no major concerns about this development proposal, and with that, we are recommending the council give their approval to move forward with this development with the attached conditions.
Awesome. Thanks, Max.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, it didn't show it in the diagrams here exactly, but we're talking about basically a pad on the side of the building for external washes. It's not another internal bay. It's a pad on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The wash bays will be added to the exterior of the building.
Right. Okay, cool. Councillor McBain, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, thanks, Max. That was a good summary. To me, this is an obvious expansion for this building, considering the fact that, yeah, there's a little bit of space there between the existing building and 308th Avenue, but it really wouldn't make much sense to just try to, stick something else in there that wasn't associated with this current building. So to me, it's just an addition to the current service that's already there. So if the planning department doesn't have any concerns about this, to me, this makes a lot of sense with respect to their business and expanding.
Thank you for those comments, Councillor. Further? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. That was easy, Max. Nicely done. Another development permit, this one for 624 Trail Street. The motion on the floor is that the council direct the corporate officer to issue a notice to neighbors on this permit, which is to increase the allowable height of a retaining wall from 2 meters to 3.2 meters to allow for the construction of a replacement retaining wall on the rear yard of 624 Trail Street. Pardon? Are you moving? Okay, Councillor Roberts moves and Councillor McBain seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor
Number
McCormick.
2.
Yeah. So to give a brief overview of the requested variance, the applicant's proposing to build a new retaining wall in the rear yard of 624 Trail Street, taller than the maximum allowed under the zoning bylaw. Under the Kimberley zoning bylaw, the maximum height of the exposed face of a retaining wall should not exceed 2 meters. With this variance request, the applicants ask to exceed that height limit and build a single tier design with a maximum face height of 3.2 meters. The subject property is one of the homes on Trail Street that backs onto Lois Creek. Existing retaining structures are already in place, but they are of an age and condition where replacement is required. This single tier design would allow for the replacement wall to be built at a lower cost and in a less invasive fashion. As noted in the report, a tier design has been designed and permitted already, but the applicants are seeking a revision to the building permit in favor of the simpler, taller design. The retaining wall faces into Lois Creek and is not directly visible from other residential properties. Between the two designs, there should be no major difference in community impact by granting this variance. With these factors taken into account, staff recommend the council provide the direction to issue notice to surrounding properties and residents regarding this proposal.
Awesome, thank you. Those pictures are actually kind of scary.
A little bit, yeah.
Yikes. Councillor McBain.
Yeah, actually, further to your point, you know, to me, just having an engineered structure in there with all of the geotech reinforcement in there with GeoGrid and proper drainage should actually provide a lot more stability clearly than what's there, and it's a much safer structure than the makeshift stuff that's currently there right now. And you know, having an engineered design with this, obviously it's going to be held to a standard and quality assurance, quality control. So to me, this is a really good thing. It would be nice if more people could do this around some of the areas that we have around town. But I mean, this is a big endeavor. But no, this should be welcomed by us.
Thank you for that. Further? Go ahead, Councillor Dunneback.
Just a quick question. I know that the houses on Trail Street are really quite tight, and I wonder how they're actually going to get equipment in there to move blocks that are 3,500 pounds a piece. And I'm more concerned about safe way of passage being blocked in case of emergency and stuff like that. I love the block wall. I love the engineer pictures, but yeah, my concern would be how they're going to get equipment in there, how they're going to get that soil out of there, and possibly what they're going to find in behind the second and third retaining wall for things being buried. Maybe take that into consideration.
Thanks for the comments, Councillor. You guys want to respond?
Sure. So in response to Councillor Dunneback's question, there is access from both sides of the home. I think right now there is a carport on one side, but that can be cleared out fairly easily. And the contractor and applicant have assured us that they do have room to access through that one side. And if there was an emergency, I'm sure they could evacuate on the other side as well. But equipment can get through on the one side of the home. There's adequate setbacks. Hasn't been confirmed by us, but the contractor is confident.
Thank you for that. Further? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, next up, we have the council correspondence policy. And the motion on the floor, kind of a three-headed motion here, that council rescind the current policy correspondence anonymous letters dated June 6th, 1994. And further, the council approve policy ADM 007, which is the new policy. And further, the council directs staff to amend section 27 of the council procedure bylaw when the bylaw is next reviewed, pardon me. A mover, please. Councillor Cairns, thank you. And Councillor McBain seconds. Go ahead, Jasmine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So prior to 2024, we heard a lot of feedback from staff and from council related to issues with how correspondence was being received. Typically, everything that came in was being pushed to an agenda or directly sent to council members at their individual email addresses, and council were receiving inconsistent levels of correspondence, as well as a kind of unmanageable amount of correspondence related to issues that they had no jurisdiction over. And so in response to those comments from council, some of the comments from staff related to improvements in cybersecurity and sophisticated phishing threats, and some records management issues, we created the correspondence summary where all correspondence that is received to council comes into a council general inbox, is then turned around and sent back to council with information about the actions that are taken specifically related to operational matters. So the policy kind of started as a formalized way of looking at those decision-making frameworks and the processes that were being used to distribute that correspondence to council. The Deputy Corporate Officer Lucas did a lot of work in tracking how we were managing correspondence as it came in. And then that framework was used to inform this policy, as well as a review of similar policies from about 30 other municipalities across BC, and then feedback from other staff, including IT services and the corporate officer in terms of what is within council's jurisdiction and not. So capturing it in a policy, I think, also has the benefit of communicating clearly with council and with residents who want to communicate with council about how, when, and where council will receive their correspondence. It makes it a more equitable situation for people who maybe don't know who to email about what, can send it into the council inbox, and we can make sure that all of council sees the same information and can use the same information to make decisions.
All right. Thanks, Jasmine. That was a pretty comprehensive run through. Thanks. Councillor Fox, go ahead.
Just a question. It references our records management policy and program, but that's not attached.
So the records and information management program is being worked on by a consultant right now. So we use the LGMA structure, which is about a 1,000-page document to guide how we store records. And then there's a retention schedule that's attached that is provided by LGMA.
Okay, just because it's like,
Administration.
this is not you, this is not a reflection on you. I have a hard time agreeing to something when part of the policy that it's
Sure.
reliant on isn't done, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Which is not your fault because you're not in charge of everything. And then just one other thing, at the very end, it talks about accessibility accommodations and they should contact the administrators. I don't love that because I don't think that's the most accessible thing, because then someone has to call and they're going to go, I'm not going to call because then I'm going to have to go through this whole thing. So obviously, I don't know how other cities do that, but I would be interested to know if there's like a less steppy process that someone would have to go through.
That's a fair question. I can honestly say that in the 30 policies that I reviewed, there was no accessibility consideration
Yeah,
explicitly
that does
mentioned.
not surprise me.
And right now, the administrative assistant is the staff liaison to the accessibility committee.
I know that.
So I think that that person is in a pretty good position to help navigate some of
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
challenges.
no, and actually that was just something I was wondering when it popped up, because
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, because just, not that we literally had a conversation about that the other day, but it was just something that occurred to me that it might be, if if you have to go through a lot of steps, people are like, I don't want to do all that, and then they just
yeah.
don't. So, yeah.
I hear that, and if I may, the advice
please.
from the accessibility consultant who helped us with the plan said that phone is typically the preferred method for people who need accessibility considerations.
Fair enough.
Further? Councillor Fox? Further? You're good? Thanks for the comments. Council. Go ahead, Councillor McGuire.
Yeah. So I appreciate this. I think it's important, if we're gonna be changing things around, to have a policy that we can refer to so that we're all on the same page. And but yeah, I do have feelings around this, just around removal of the council emails being accessible on the website. Essentially, there's a profile for staff as well as councilors on our website. Staff have direct emails and council has one generic email that doesn't go to council. I don't think that that's very transparent to the public. And my preference would be that we have our emails accessible to the public at this point, it's easier for a member of the public to track me down on the street or to contact me through social media than through the official paths that, yeah, it's just an official email to the city that can then be referred to in an FOI request, for example. And just these issues around workflow as well and how difficult it was to manage previously. I mean, there is an argument there, and there's also the argument that this is creating additional work as well through requiring staff to filter through everything and to create those weekly reports. It's also creating a barrier to me being able to track emails because I don't actually have folders of emails. Instead, I just have this weekly report and a chart with attachments. There's also, yeah, it just feels like we're kind of not being treated as respected officials. Instead, we're being treated or like babysat almost through this policy. And it feels like a justification for not including us in managing communication for ourselves. That's just my feelings around it. Again, you know, I would support it if there were some checks and balances put into place to make it easier for staff to manage correspondence, but this just feels like an overstep. My suggestion would be something along the lines of our emails still being included there with a clear statement at the top of the councillor emails that kind of lays out the lay of the land. Hey, you know, if you want this to come to the council table, then email this email address. I don't know what it is exactly, but I feel like we can do better. That's my opinion.
Thanks for the comments, Councillor McGuire. Go ahead, Jasmine.
If I can respond to a couple of the things that you mentioned. As stated in the staff report, we are moving away from having any individual email addresses on the external facing website. As we update web pages, we're removing the email addresses that are associated with people and replacing them with departments. So you'll see planning@kimberley.ca or communications@kimberley.ca in order to access staff in those departments rather than the individual's email addresses, again, for that cybersecurity piece. And then a reminder that council city emails related to city business are requestable under the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. It isn't just those emails that come to the council inbox, but when people are emailing council and asking them for information or to work on city business, that could be subject to an FOI request.
Thank you. Further comments, Council? Councillor Cairns, go ahead.
I appreciate your work on this, Jasmine. Thank you. And yeah, the piece of having clarity and consistency and then transparency for the community and for ourselves, the city as a whole is really important. So I think having that policy is really key. I do find it really awkward when people approach me and say, "Oh, I sent you an email. What did you think?" And then, you know, it's kind of a week later sometimes before I see it. And so, you know, some of those similar sentiment to what Councillor McGuire is mentioning is it does feel like there's a bit of a barrier there. And you know, often, yeah, people are going other routes to find us individually. I don't know how that would end up working as an FOI request when they just are contacting us either through social media or our personal emails, that type of thing. But that's what I'm finding is happening to me. So yeah, I have no idea what the solution is, but I do find it does feel like there's quite a barrier there, and it's difficult to kind of serve the people who voted for us and be involved in kind of open communication that way. So yeah, people find us in different ways, but it becomes very awkward for them and they feel blocked. And so, yeah, I have difficulty. I recognize the need for this, but I also, and I want to have a policy, but I have difficulty supporting this as it sits just now. I don't know if maybe having council@kimberley.ca on the website, but says that, you know, there will be a delay before council sees this so that that's clear to people. It's not dropping right into our inbox because, you know, people are expecting you to respond, or if you see them the next day, or, you know, you're in a meeting and they say, oh, did you see the invitation? And I go, well, and then I end up actually just encouraging people to email and I give out the city, our council emails because they ask me for it. So yeah, anyway, those are just some thoughts about some of the challenges that I find with the policy. Yeah, thank you.
For sure.
Further, council?
Could I respond to some of the
Yeah, go ahead, Jasmine.
some of the feedback that you've just shared is also feedback that you've shared in previous meetings. And so you'll notice in the policy that there is now a strict timeline related to when correspondence would be circulated, and that the policy contains a new automated message so that when people email the council inbox, it links them back to the policy where they can find all of that information, including that timeline. And then there's in the staff report a kind of specific table that lays out some of the different types of correspondence where I think we might have had some lack of clarity in the past of how some things were being handled one way and other things might have been being handled another way, and we hadn't really articulated how that was happening. So it kind of lays that out as well for people who are trying to communicate with council as well as for council.
Any further comments? Councillor Roberts, go ahead.
It occurs to me that for those people who are apt to want to communicate to us, that it might not hurt to have a public announcement about the fact that due to our recent tightening of the cybersecurity issues and the phishing and the scamming and all that, that we are tightening up our ability to, we're editing how our emails are received so as not to compromise our communications, something along that line, because 90% of the problem is that.
Yeah, thank you for those comments. So this is a light year ahead of where we have been. And notwithstanding some tweaks, as with any new policy like this, my suggestion is we live with this for a while, because undoubtedly there may be other pieces of feedback that come back, and then revisit and take a look at what that means and some of the comments that we've had around the table here, and see if there's a way that we can, you know, kind of go to version 2.0 at some point in the not too distant future. Yeah. Thanks for the work on this, Jasmine. So I'm going to call the question now. All those in favor? Those opposed? Councillor, pardon me, McGuire and Councillor Fox are opposed. Councillor Dunavac, where did you stand on this? Okay, thank you. Councillor McGuire and Fox are opposed. The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the work on this, Jasmine. And I assume this is implemented immediately? Or we're there? Okay, thank you. Okay, next up, we have a notice on title at 535 303rd Street. Motion on the floor is the council direct the corporate officer to file a notice with the BC Land Title Office under Section 57 of the Community Charter for this particular property. And further, that information in respect of this matter may be inspected at Kimberley City Hall during regular hours. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor McBain, thank you. Councillor Fox seconds. Go ahead. Discussion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor McCormick. Yeah, we're another notice on title. We're getting through the list of these here that need some cleaning up. This one's been in the works for some time. The numerous concerns with the lack of inspections and refusal to cooperate with inspectors on answering the questions has got us where we are here. Through that process, the owner has been notified and the opportunity to be heard by council. And yeah, so we definitely recommend that council move forward with this notice on title, which is best practice and helps to inform any future purchasers, that sort of thing, if there's any potential change of ownership in the near or distant future. And All of the problems are probably, are certainly resolvable, but, we want to make sure that persons with interest in the property in the future are have the best opportunity to become aware of those things.
Yeah, okay, excellent, thank you. And just to be clear, we don't do that many notices on title. It doesn't preclude anybody from selling the property. It just informs those doing the purchases that there is this, open issue to be aware of.
That's correct. It does not necessarily prevent the sale, but some purchasers will refuse or, renegotiate, I guess, on a deal. But it is definitely the easiest way to make sure that they're informed of that, if not disclosed by a seller.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Council? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. All right, that time of the quarter again for our administration update. This would be for the final quarter of last year, Q3 for us, October 1st to December 31st. And the motion on the floor is that we receive the admin update for information. Mover, please. Councillor Cairns moves and Councillor Roberts seconds. Over to you, Jim. What would you care to highlight? It's a pretty comprehensive report.
Yeah, there's, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a bunch of stuff in there again. I'm not going to go through it in any great detail. We're represented by the operations department, planning department here. If anybody has any questions, the operations in large part it's an update on projects that also included a bit of a blurb in the last quarter update. Those being the Center 64 band shell and landscaping, Civic Center chiller replacement. We're just in the process right now of working with the contractor to pick colors on the building, I guess is the first step. It's part of that broader project. Wastewater treatment plant is cruising along. The validation phase is complete. Utility side of things, the water supply study offered referenced, we're expecting that to be presented in the second quarter of 2026. The ice facility strategy, there was a couple of open houses, lots of public engagement on that one. We're anticipating that that's going to be presented. We've got the final version of the report, just cleaning it up a bit with the contractor, and that'll come back, I believe, in February for presentation. The planning department, again, Troy's in the gallery here if you have any questions on that, or the short-term rental. Community development communications, Pam did a great job of providing a bunch of information on activities and events that took place over the last quarter. The fire department, they've included a bit of a summary in there on the fire that occurred on Christmas Eve. We continue to work with the insurers just to determine damages there, but in the report here, it indicates that the loss to the fleet is estimated to be between $285,000 and $600,000. And we've got an assessment of the building, the block structure underway. So we're not entirely sure whether that's a total loss yet or not. But that'll be a big touch if insurance has to replace that as well.
Can you make a comment on the insurance for that, just so we know what to expect?
Yeah, so it's similar to the, I guess, the gymnastics facility, for example. That building, it obviously costs more to build a new building than the old one was worth. But the way the insurance works is whatever the cost is to replace the structure that was existing will be covered. If we want to make any enhancements to it, to either the materials or the size, that would be in addition. We'd have to cover that cost, but everything else would be covered by the insurer.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it.
Council. Go ahead, Councillor Cairns.
Thanks, Jim, and to everyone who put this together. This is super handy for when people have questions, being able to direct them to these administrative updates. So really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll take the opportunity to put in a plug for the email the email newsletter that goes out, which captures not just council minutes or agenda items, but also these kinds of things and points folks from the public to where they can get a quick link and get the information. I saw it the last report. In fact, in the report here somewhere, we've got about 500 emails that are we regularly mail out to. That's still a pretty small number, so we really encourage people to sign up for that. Anything further? Call the question. All those in favor of receipt? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next up, we have the procurement report for that same period. And the motion on the floor is the council receive the procurement report for Q3 for information. Mover, please. Councilor McBain, thank you. Seconder, Councilor Roberts, thank you. Any comments?
I can speak to that. Thank
Yeah.
you, Mayor McCormick.
Thank you. Go ahead, Krista.
Yes, so the procurement report provides a listing of projects where a formal solicitation process was performed. The information detailed in this report has been provided by department managers and relates to the period from October 1st to December 31st. And this quarter only included 3 projects, but they were the Public Works Fuel System Replacement, Emergency Management and Business Continuity Project, as well as the Privacy Management Consulting Services.
Thank you. Council, questions? Call. Yep, go ahead, Councilor Dunneback.
Can I ask what the business continuity project is?
You want to go ahead, Jim?
Yeah, I can speak briefly on that. That's something that the fire chief is working on with a consultant, and it's business continuity in the event of an emergency. So being able to essentially carry on essential business. If, for example, we're to be evacuated from City Hall, so we've got offsite storage of data and can essentially fire up a computer almost anywhere and log into that. So able to carry on with payroll, pay bills, stuff like that.
Thanks for the question, Councilor Dunneback. Anything further? Call the question on receipt. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. The next report is the financial update report for the full year, 2025, January 1 to December 31. And again, the motion on the floor is that council receive the report for information. Mover, please. Councilor Cairns, thank you. And Councilor McBain seconds. Krista.
Thank you, Mayor McCormick. Yes, so this financial update report details revenue and expenditures for the full year, January 1st to December 31st of 2025. It's important to note that these are preliminary figures. We are still anticipating supplier invoices to come through relating to 2025 goods and services. Plus, there'll be additional reconciliation adjustments to come as part of the year-end process in preparation for the audit. But as we look at the summary page, which is the second page after that, the cover page there, this provides a detail of what we're looking at by department and by breakdown of revenue, expenditures, capital, and non-capital. And being at a full year, we would expect to see portion of spending to be close to 100%. And as we can see on the revenue side, we're nearing 100% there. Under expenditures, we're in the fire department and financial services are a little behind. The fire department is in relation to fuels management projects that have been delayed. And the financial services side is just pending an adjustment for the payout of the Sunmine debt that occurred this fall. And if we look down further at capital and non-capital, we see the spending of capital is 27.8%. But if we remove if we take out the wastewater treatment plant, which is a large proportion of capital spending and capital budget for 2025, it is closer to 57%.
So those under the capital, those would be projects that would have been deferred?
Correct.
To the next year.
That's right.
Council. Questions or comments? Councilor Dunneback, go ahead.
I think I've sort of touched on this question before, but And I think Jimmy answered it actually about, when we sold the Sunmine, we kept some of the debt and we're trying to pay that off. Like where are we with that debt? And what does it look like in the future? Is it gonna continue for 10 years or are we like, where are we in the scope of it?
Yeah, and I'm gonna turn it over to Krista, but I think we're paying that debt out this year. Like when we enter into a debenture debt, there's a reset date every 10 years where they reset the interest rate, and at that time you have the ability to pay it out. So when we sold the Sunmine, we weren't at that reset date yet, and I think 2026 is the reset date. So it will be paid out with the money that was in the reserve from the proceeds of that sale.
And then that's finito, done, no more Sunmine on the table. for us.
That line item will disappear from our financial statements.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll just confirm that it has actually already been paid. It was in October of 2025. Yep, so it's cleared out.
Thank you. Further? Call the question. All those in favor of receipt? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next up, we have a couple of notices of motion put forward by Councillor Fox. Councillor Fox, would you like to, kind of go through the
I'm going to
the first one, item number
okay,
5.
because I was going to kind of speak to both of them at once because they're kind of related, but I can,
Let's put the first one on the floor
Okay.
and then you can speak to both and then we'll bring the motion for
do
the
I start
second
from the whereas or from the that?
one. From the that.
Okay, so that council directs staff to submit the following resolution regarding legislative safeguards for ethical and inclusive governance to the Association of Kootenay and Boundary Local Governance, AKBLG, annual general meeting prior to February 17th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. with the relevant background information. Whereas local government elected officials in British Columbia do not possess statutory immunity or freedom of speech protections comparable to those of members of the Legislative Assembly or Parliament, leaving them personally vulnerable to civil liability and reprisal when raising ethical concerns or dissenting in good faith. And whereas the lack of robust province-wide legislative safeguards create a chilling effect on ethical debate and disproportionately exposes women, underrepresented groups, and new entrants to governance to personal, legal, and reputational risks. Therefore, be it resolved that the Association of Kootenay and Boundary Local Governments requests that the Province of British Columbia, in association with UBCM, amend the Community Charter and Local Government Act to establish qualified immunity and public interest disclosure, whistleblower protections for local government elected officials acting in good faith, and be it further resolved that these safeguards be designed to protect officials from retaliation and ensure that ethical dissent is balanced with high standards of professional accountability. Can I plow through the next one?
No, let's just get that one on the floor. So Councillor Fox has moved. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Karen seconds. So go ahead and speak to one or both.
Okay, I'll speak to, just because it didn't occur to me, I would have to speak to them separate. Sorry, I don't know why I didn't think of that. I'm aware the timing of this is probably problematic for some people because of whatever recently. So this is not a commentary on any of that. So these resolutions are kind of essentially two sides of the same coin. One side is about putting independent external mechanisms in place so local governments can have access to independent ethical oversight. And the other side is about putting provisions in place so elected officials can safely make use of those. BC is one of the only province with no provisions at all for local government. Council codes of conduct are voluntary and processes often rely on internal systems, and without protection to speak freely on some capacity, local officials are often forced into silence. The lack of these mechanisms and protections ensure there's always a place where even the best intended of legislation can be undermined. This is a problem of system design, and this is a loophole, and closing it would create a fairer system of governance that people can have faith in. I would also add in I was elected in a by-election, so I don't have, we're in an election year this year. I don't have a ton of time to try and do something. So this is kind of potentially the only opportunity I have to put such things forward. I'm very aware the timing is not probably sitting right with everyone. And I accept that. It's just they have to be into AKBLG by February 17th. So
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. Councillor McBain, then Councillor McGuire.
Yeah, that was going to be my only question, was just the timing, and I understand that there's a deadline. So yeah, just thanks for explaining that.
Councillor McGuire.
Yeah, so the two fairly separate motions, in my opinion, and probably should be looked at separately. And I feel with the first one, I have a few concerns just around the framing of it, around the legal protections that counselors have. I feel like there is pretty good legal protection around us acting in good faith as officials. I think courts recognize this at this point. And the chilling effect part around, again, fear of lawsuits. Like other than conflicts of interest, I can't think of any lawsuits that I would be taken to court for. And my impression of the state of conflict of interest lawsuits is they kind of make sense to me. I don't want counselors to be not held accountable for conflicts of interest. The vulnerable groups piece, I mean, I think it's important to keep that in mind. But again, you know, these protections would apply across the board to everybody at the table. That includes people who, so it would be protecting those people that are then maybe taking advantage of their position as not a vulnerable group. I don't know about the whistleblower language either, because again, we're kind of the authority here. So it just feels like we're the decision makers, and whistleblower policies would more apply to the staff and to the maybe even senior management. I don't know. So on that one, I don't feel as strongly aligned with this motion, but the second one, I do support the second motion. And that one is more around, or I do have some concerns around it, just around like creating another more provincial bureaucracy. But I do think that there's merit to it, because, you know, I think there's real value to having access to those types of supports through the provincial government. And as been mentioned, you know, we've been expected to create these new policies around this, but there's not really any expert to go to at the provincial level that's a direct support for managing that. So that's where I stand on the two motions.
Thank you, Councillor McGuire. Go ahead, Councillor Fox.
just in relation to the first one, go back to when Naheed Menchie was mayor of Calgary and see how much trouble councillors got into. Because it's across the country. Nobody has provisions, and it's not just conflict of interest. It's things that are said in council tables. Problematically, municipal and local governments function differently than the provincial and federal governments do. But that creates I think an issue where there's still a little spot. Yeah, someone spent a lot of money going after people in Alberta government, municipal governments. And I guess that's that thing that knowing that it can happen, I think it's better to try and put a provision in place so it can't.
Councillor Dunneback.
Yeah, I appreciate both sides of the comments here. And it strikes me kind of hard in a way that I think we need some sort of protection of firewall a little bit. To be able to speak freely around the table, to articulate what we're actually talking about. And I realize that some of the context, it can be pretty coarse, I guess I'll say. But it's always appreciated from both sides. And I actually wouldn't have put my hat in had I known that there wasn't some form of protection for myself and my family. That's something to consider. We're kind of all different terms of life here and avenues, and yeah, to not have that, I think it's a key piece for just a simple thin layer of protection so that we can discuss things that are sensitive, and know that I'm not going to have somebody knocking on my door or showing up at my place of business or, yeah, I'll stop there.
Thank you, Councillor Dunback. Kind of for edification of the public who are watching or will be watching in on this, can we have either Jim from you or Maurice, whichever, just an explanation of kind of what it is we're doing here with respect to AKBLG and UBCM? I think that would be useful. We kind of know what's going on, but I doubt we need a context for the public. Do you want to take that?
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so every year AKBLG, the Association of Kootenai Boundary Local Government Municipalities, they take resolutions from members of local governments, and they are able to make a determination of whether they want to forward those onto the UBCM at the annual convention for consideration on the floor. If they make it to UBCM, they're presented on the floor and they're considered, yeah, to the membership at UBCM. And this notice of motion requests amendments to legislation. So that's really the only way that could happen from this level up, is through a notice of motion resolution through AKBLG through to UBCM.
And then what happens at UBCM if it is accepted?
Yeah, so if it's accepted up to the UBCM level, it goes into the booklet and it's presented to everybody on the floor. Is that what you're?
Yeah, you know what happens if the floor says, yes, we all vote in favor of this, then what?
Yeah, then I think then depending on what the resolution is, it goes forward to consideration.
It's advocated with the provincial government?
Yeah, to the appropriate ministry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a forward process to enable, especially when legislation changes are required, to be able to advocate to the provincial government. At UBCM, it's on behalf of all municipalities in the province, regardless of who it was that initiated it first out of the gate. Councillor McGuire, or McBain.
Something. Yeah, I was just gonna ask Jim and Maurice to kind of do the same thing, just so that everybody kind of understood what's going on here. I mean, nothing against Councillor Fox, but it's a wordy resolution, and it's good to get get everybody on the same page. So, from where I see it, I've attended AKBLG, and there's a lot of resolutions to go through, and it's the way I look at it is this is just pushing it on to pushing something forward to a broader group to have a wider consideration. And if it has merit, then it goes beyond that. So, yeah, so I don't really, I guess, have too much of a consternation either way with this, but I think it was good for everybody to understand what the process is. So the public knows what the heck we're voting on here.
Go ahead, Councillor Fox.
Yeah, just to add in, I can't speak 100% on AKBLG, but there's resolutions for both, sort of along the lines of both of these things, going back UCBM till at least 2018. I would suspect some of this is where some of the code of conduct stuff sort of originated out of. I know it's something that they're interested in working on. I don't think they've found all the answers yet, and that's okay.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Cairns and then McGuire.
Yeah, I think similar to Councillor Dunnebeck, when I put my name forward to come onto council, I was quite surprised when I came onto council and there wasn't like some form of ombuds type person or some, as a reference point or a neutral third party that could just check in with, like, where does this fit in? Where does that fit in? And without it becoming onerous in any way, just a pure, ability to just ask questions. And, you know, I'm interested that this is a missing piece with local government that's been addressed at the provincial and the federal level. And I think that it would actually attract a wider diversity of people to council tables to have this in place. And I'll be, yeah, I'm interested to see this move forward, and I'll be supporting the motion.
Councillor McGuire.
Yeah, so I just wanted to speak to it one more time briefly, just around the first motion again. Like I see what it's pointing at, and I just, again, I get scared with the immunity piece around like councillors having immunity. And I do think that like that second motion does start to point in the direction that I would move if I were, you know, approaching that legal lawsuit question, is more of maybe along the lines of some sort of legal advice that councillors could access free of charge, because there is a little bit of a unlevel playing field where if a councillor has a conflict of interest and can afford to pay a lawyer, you know, a whole bunch of money to be on call to answer questions around conflicts, that's great. But I know that personally, I can't afford that. And it does create an unlevel playing field where there's more a propensity for some of us who are less privileged to not be able to speak on issues because we don't have that legal support. So anyways, I just wanted to comment, like, I do see the issue. I just maybe don't necessarily agree with the approach here, is more what I'm getting at. And that being said, you know, that will be filtered through EBCM as well. So there's no huge risk of approving this. I'm just speaking my mind.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. Pardon me, Councillor Fox, have you talked to any of the other municipalities, say here in the East Kootenays?
I went digging around on some websites. I didn't talk to anybody specifically.
The only reason I bring that up is that at AKBLG and UBCM, motions are viewed more favorably if there are multiple municipalities involved in the sponsorship of a particular motion. It's then viewed as being more broadly acceptable as opposed to, you know, a single municipality having, you know, for whatever reason, their interest. It may be worthwhile contacting a couple to see if they would put their name on the motion.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, we've got the first motion on the floor. I'm going to call the question on that. All those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor McGuire is opposed. Sorry, Woody. It's 8:30. The motion is carried. Okay, the second motion, Councillor Fox.
Okay, from that council again? Is it from that council again?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry,
From the top.
Okay, all right. One second, let me make sure I'm reading the right one. That council directs staff to submit the following resolution regarding independent provincial office to support municipal ethical oversight to the Association of Kootenay and Boundary Local Governments, AKBLG, annual general meeting prior to February 17th, 2028 at 5:30 p.m. with the relevant background information. Whereas local governments in British Columbia are not currently required to adopt a code of conduct, and there remains no provincially mandated independent mechanism to support local governments when ethical concerns are raised or standards are breached. And whereas many local governments, particularly smaller and rural municipalities, are under-resourced and lack the capacity, independence, or specialized expertise to address conduct concerns without incurring significant financial and administrative burdens. Therefore, be it resolved that the Association of Kootenay and Boundary Local Governments requests the province of British Columbia establish an independent provincial office to support local governments in addressing ethical concerns and conduct breaches, and be it further resolved that this office be mandated to ensure minimum provincial standards, provide a consistent and impartial approach to complaint adjudication across jurisdictions, and reduce the need for resource-intensive local investigations, particularly in under-resourced communities.
So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McGuire, thank you. Do you want to speak to that?
Because I feel like I kind of did already, but yeah, it's just the other side of it, right? They're just sort of two sides of the same coin, and they kind of relate and don't relate because they're sort of different versions of the same thing, but not. One's about, you know, the systemic mechanism, and then the other one's about the protective mechanism. So
Comments, council? Go ahead, Councilor McBain.
Yeah, I guess my comment's just the same thing. I mean, you know, getting it out to a wider audience, as Councilor McGuire pointed out, it's pretty low risk, and you know, it just provides a wider audience for consideration. So, yeah.
All right, thanks for those comments. Seeing no others, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. All right. Next up, we have action items for correspondence. We just have one this evening, and that is the UBCM publication regarding the response to Bill M216, which is the Professional Reliance Act. And kind of in our package here, we have a number of letters from municipalities that are voicing exception. And the motion on the floor is that a letter be drafted under my signature on behalf of council stating our position on Bill M16. Could I have a mover, please? Councillor McGuire, thank you. And Councillor Fox seconds. So I think, if I may, to kind of start things out here, I think the letter from the Village of Elmont that Mayor Torgerson wrote kind of nails it in as few words as you can use on what is possibly a little more complicated than, you know, what meets the eye. After having read through all of this and had chats with a number of different municipalities, I think from my perspective anyway, the issue here is about the peer oversight. First of all, these large projects and the types of projects we're unlikely to have any of those in our region out here, never mind our municipalities. So in many respects, we're not talking about something that's going to necessarily impact us directly, but more at a provincial level that's going to impact municipalities elsewhere in the province. And the big issue here isn't speeding things up. It's great that we could get the developers to use their own resources at their own expense to get the professional opinions on the table, but we can't give up peer review. As Owen pointed out in his letter, staff regularly find mistakes with respect to expert opinion on a number of things. Here in the East Kootenays, for example, we regularly have whether it's engineers or professional designations from Calgary, from Alberta, that weigh in on what's happening, or a project here in BC where the rules are different. They're not exactly the same, and they don't always catch that. And if we didn't have peer review in place, there could be some potentially devastating consequences. So, you know, I think the basic message that Owen had was a little broader than that. But certainly from my perspective, the peer review is something that we can't give up. But supporting quicker movement on big projects is in everybody's best interest, particularly things like schools and hospitals and so on. So anyway, that's kind of my 2 cents. Council. Go ahead, Jim.
Just for clarification, Mr. Mayor, so in that the draft resolution that you read there, stating council's position that you're in opposition to the bill, just so that it's clear.
Oh, I see. That's what the blank was?
Yeah.
I was going to say that's a short line to state a position. Yeah, in opposition to the bill, absolutely. Okay, we'll leave it up to staff to kind of craft something that we can, I mean, the deadline for response to this thing is passed. But you may recall when Minister Anderson was here, they're still taking comments. I don't think they got enough comments back, which was her reason for saying, you know, please, nothing is going to happen quickly on this because of the resistance that's come about. So it's definitely worth our while to, you know, put something together and fire it off.
So clarification, some of the wording, we're just gonna I mean, the general consensus is opposition, but with the wording itself, we're just gonna leave to staff.
Okay. Exactly.
Okay, just wanted to be.
And it will center around peer review and,
Right.
and not giving up oversight.
Yeah.
Which is really what we.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with that. I just, yeah, wanted to make sure the administrative side, we all understood it. Okay.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
Thanks for that clarification. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think the reference to the letter from Valemount, I saw some nods around the horseshoe here, so I think we can use that as a basis of
Awesome.
drafting the letter.
Sounds good. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. All right, we do have an in-camera this evening. So if I could have a motion to head in camera. Councillor Fox moves, Councillor McBain seconds. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. 2 minutes.